Hello, today I'm going to respond to Ben Shapiro's awful review of most disingenuous, dishonest review of the Odyssey. And I know that there's something behind his intentions for defending this awful movie. Let's begin.
I saw it in IMAX and I have many, many thoughts. This video is sponsored by our friends over at PDS Death. Alrighty, so I want to begin with the overall. On a scale 1 to 10, where does this movie lie?
So you can see the problem. He is already rating this movie without giving us the information such as the cinematography, the acting, the main story. He's just going right through the ratings, even though he does not give us any information. This is a tactic to not tell you if this movie is actually good or not. That's what he's trying to do. This is a trick you should not fall for. And this is a disingenuous trick that Ben Shapiro is using right now.
I'm going to get into all of the politics, specifically regarding the casting and some of the sort of stones in the shoe when it comes to this movie. There are certain flaws in the movie that feel enormous, truly, to the viewer. They feel big. It feels like a sort of chip in your tooth, where everybody else looks at your tooth and they're like, there's nothing wrong with your tooth. And then you feel it with your tongue, you're like, oh my gosh, there's like a canyon in my tooth. Well, there's some of those things in the film, and I'll get to those things. Some of them are things that you've probably been thinking about, some of them not as much. But overall, the movie is, Nolan's great at what he does. I mean, the movie is a masterpiece.
Ben Shapiro is being the Nolan fanboy who is downplaying the reasonable concerns people have with this movie and about the really strange and mismatched casting that makes no sense. Why Matt Damon as Odysseus? It makes zero sense. All the other casting, it makes zero sense. Ben Shapiro is just downplaying the major problems with this film and acting as if, it's not as bad, bro.
Hegel's version, for example. It takes liberties with some of the characterization. You would figure it would have to. When you're talking about ancient literature, most of the characters in ancient literature are not particularly well characterized. You don't sort of get their interior monologue, the thing that they're thinking the whole time. And the thematic, when it comes to the Odyssey, is not totally clear. You have a bunch of speeches that kind of will insert a theme here or there, but it's...
Ben, there is a clear theme in the Odyssey, and that is very clear in Homer's poem. And you're acting like there's no clear theme in the original poem, just so you can defend this awful film, just because you like Nolan. You have been in decades criticizing woke culture and woke media, but now you defend a woke film just because Nolan made it. Oh, I can't believe this. This is so ironic.
But Nolan does something different here. He actually inserts a sort of overarching theme that I quite liked. Now, whether you think that's true to the theme of the Odyssey is...
Oh yeah, Nolan inserting the fact that Odysseus must be ashamed of what he has done in war, and that's like almost the entire movie. Even though the poem is about the glory of the war, but never mind that fact because Nolan made it. It means good. That's like, no, this movie is garbage.
He's doing with Odysseus is actually kind of directly from the text. That's okay. You're allowed to take liberties with ancient texts. As a film, does it work? Absolutely. Now, the film starts off relatively slowly. So the first hour starts off fairly slowly and kind of episodic. And then about halfway through, it kicks in and you realize what the theme is going to be, and it just gets better and better. So by the time you hit the end, it actually is quite moving and quite effective. Okay, so again, we'll start from the very beginning. Nolan is great at what he does. The movie looks beautiful. It's well shot. The images are incredible and iconic. There are images you can't get out of your head after having seen the film, particularly the fall of Troy, which appears in the last hour of the film or so, is extraordinary. The entire incident with the Trojan horse.
So he says that the movie gets better as the scenes go on, but that a lot of reviewers would disagree with you. Actually, a ton of reviewers said that the movie got worse as it went along, and worse and worse. just look at many reviewers. You guys know, this Ben Shapiro. His review seems very fake, and there's a hidden agenda that's underneath all of this. I don't trust what he's trying to say.
The script has some flaws, and I'll get to the flaws in a second. I do have somewhat of a problem with Nolan's sound mixing. He does this thing in a lot of his movies where the sound of the score sometimes overwhelms the dialogue, which is a problem because I'm trying to actually hear what the character is saying. And that does happen from time to time. Particularly, there's a scene where Charlize Theron, who's playing Calypso, is sort of giving you her rationale for why Odysseus was stranded and why she's allowing him to leave and all of that. And it kind of gets eaten up by the score. That's a problem. But again, as a director, Nolan is unparalleled. He's the best director working today, without a doubt. He just creates iconic movie after iconic movie. The cinematography is beautiful. The score by Ludwig Göransson is, I would say, good, not great. You don't walk out.
There are a lot more issues with this movie other than the score eating up the dialogue. It's also the fact that the testing makes no sense. The characters look nothing like the original poem. It's this sacralizes the source material, disrespects the source material, and Homer's poem, and Greek folklore, and all of that. That's one of the main issues people have with this film, and the fact that they didn't even really use Greek settings. They didn't even... I don't think they... I think they did use Greek settings. By literal Greek taxpayers. Yeah, Greek taxpayers had to pay for this movie, even though they didn't ask for it.
Is very good with a few exceptions. So Matt Damon as Odysseus, I will admit, I'm a big Matt Damon stan. I really like Matt Damon. I think he's great in nearly everything. He really sort of disappears into the part in a way that he doesn't in a lot of his other movies. He's great as Odysseus. Robert Pattinson as Antinous is an excellent antagonist. He's sleazy and gross. Tom Holland as Telemachus is excellent, well cast. Anne Hathaway does a great job as Penelope. Corey Hawkins as Polybus is great. Zendaya.
My name is not Zendaya.
I actually liked in this movie. I know that's a rarity. I'm not a huge Zendaya fan, but Zendaya. What Nolan does with Zendaya, I'll explain in a second, is actually quite smart. John Bernthal as Menelaus. I do like John Bernthal in nearly everything. Charlize Theron as Calypso is great. John Leguizamo as Eumaeus. A lot of people didn't like his performance. I liked it. I didn't have a problem with Lupita Nyong'o as Helen or Clytemnestra. You know where I'm going here. You know where I'm going to say that the casting went awry, and it really did. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the themes, and then I'm going to get to the flaws. So the theme...
Sorry, Ben, but I can't take you seriously thinking that Matt Damon is a good cast for the Odysseus. The rest of the cast makes no sense either. All of the cast makes no sense for this movie. Also, Christopher Nolan takes away the magic of the original poem. He tried to make it as realistic as possible, even though the Odyssey is literally a Greek myth or legend. Of course, they're going to have fantastical elements, but Christopher Nolan takes away all the fantastical elements and just plays off Athena as just some imaginary character in Odysseus's head, which is really a very atheistic thing to include in a world where there's literal gods. That makes zero sense. And you cannot say for 1 second, Ben, that the casting is even good. No, it's Tom Holland as Telemachus. No, this is just bad casting.
Imposed exile. Yes, he wants to get home, but he suffers tremendous guilt over the loss of his men during the Trojan War. He doesn't think the Trojan War should have been fought. He's sort of strong-armed into it by Agamemnon and by Menelaus. He has to abandon his wife. He has to take a draft of his people, and then he has to go. And he's there for 10 years, and then he's missing for another 7 years. All of that is stuff that he regrets. So he's racked by regret over the loss of his men. But as it turns out, he's also racked with regret over the end of the Trojan War itself. So one of the conceits of the film is that there is this rule that is essentially a biblical rule smuggled into Greek theology. Treat people as you would want to be treated. I mean, this comes up multiple times in the film. That rule is put into the guise of because that person may turn out to be a god, right? Because if you're treating a person in a certain way, that person may turn out to be a god in disguise. It's called Zeus's law. They keep saying it over and over in the film. And so the basic idea is that Zeus's law was violated by offering a gift in order to get...
What Nolan is doing is deconstructing Odysseus as like a shameful man who only did evil. That's what the intention of like the characterization of Odysseus is. That's what Nolan's intention was. It's just to like make Odysseus ashamed of going to war. It's just like this is what Hollywood has been doing for a long time. They did with Luke Skywalker and they deconstructed him as like just a pathetic old man. That's what they're doing with this movie, The Odyssey.
Holocaust of Troy was carried out. And so he has regrets over both the slaughter that was carried out, but mostly over his crucial role in violating Zeus's law, because he as a character is not someone who tends to fear the gods. He's not someone who tends to think that fate is in the hands of the gods. He's constantly rebelling against fate. As he's informed by one of the other characters, Athena, it turns out that actually he's not rebelling against fate as much as he's rebelling against human nature. In any case, because of those regrets, he is sort of sidetracked, and he has to learn that human nature is venal and greedy and bad, and that he's not in control of everything. But the idea also is that's why you have things like Zeus's law, and when Zeus's law is violated, then it is very difficult to put back together. There's a threat that is sort of materialized into the script, that there are these sea people who you never see, who are violating all the laws of war, and they're going ashore in places like Ithaca in order to invade it, and they're not paying attention to any of Zeus's law. And it turns out that Odysseus believes that the reason why that's happening is because he violated Zeus's law, and now you've unleashed upon the world this violation of the natural order. Again, very conservative messaging. And once you violate the natural law, that has infectious effects. The idea that human beings are greedy and venal. You see that in the scene with Circe where the men are turned into pigs, which, by the way, is one of the creepier scenes ever filmed. I mean, really creepy. The way that he films that is that Circe physically manipulates, these men get addicted to eating, and then she physically manipulates their bodies into the bodies of pigs. It's super creepy and weird. Yeah, again, really well filmed, and thematically pretty interesting. And the idea is that he has to violate Zeus's law essentially one last time, and then go into exile in order to preserve the city. That's Samantha Morton who plays Circe, by the way. The basic idea here is that in the very last battle, he comes back, obviously, and now he has to kill all the suitors. Now, in the Odyssey, he just kills all the suitors and retakes the crown.
Man, Ben Shapiro is really hard trying to defend this garbage film that was made for the modern audience. Yeah, this is just, yeah, you can try your best defending a movie that's completely terrible.
Law one last time in order to take out all the enemies, and then he's going to go into exile with Penelope, and Telemachus is going to become the king because he hasn't actually violated the law of Zeus. And that means that he essentially has to take on everybody by himself. Again, the thematic, I think, is kind of great. I kind of love it a little bit. And the movie is beautiful. And now, on to the actual flaws. So, there have been a bunch of flaws that have been pointed out, particularly by people on the political right. And again, I'm trying to be objective about these films. This is why I wasn't going to jump to conclusions about the film based on a bunch of sort of online rumors. I wanted to see it and then review it. I know, weirdness and oddity. Okay, so there are essentially, I would say, 5 flaws that have been presented by people on the right when it comes to casting and all the rest. Those flaws would be, in order, Travis Scott, who's a rapper, playing the bard. Lupita Nyong'o playing Helen, the most beautiful woman ever to have lived. The use of the terms dad and mom in the film, the sort of modern language of the film. Zendaya as Athena, and Elliot Page as Sinon. So I'm going to go through those in order.
So now Benny Boy is coming into the flaws and why this movie is total garbage and trash. And the casting is the main problem. But he decided to rate it before we even got into the details of the film. Yeah, this is like... Yeah, he's only defending this movie because he likes Nolan. That's it. And, yeah.
This goes to, why isn't everybody in the movie Greek? I'm just going to point out at this point, no one in the movie is Greek. Literally no one. Matt Damon is of Nordic extraction, okay? Matt Damon is a very white guy. He is not Greek. Tom Holland does not look Greek. Anne Hathaway does not look Greek. None of these people look Greek. So we can start with that. So I'm not super bothered by Travis Scott playing the bard. It didn't really take me out of the story in any significant way. Okay, so maybe the bard is just a traveler from northern Africa in this particular version. I'm not gonna go crazy over that. It doesn't change the story in a fundamental way. I feel the same thing about Lupita Nyong'o. So I know a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, Lupita Nyong'o is supposed to look like Diane Kruger." I don't know. Diane Kruger doesn't look very Greek. She's German. So Lupita Nyong'o is a beautiful woman. But here's the thing: actually, in the script, Nolan goes out of his way to explain that the war wasn't really.
The casting and the dialogue are the main reasons why this movie is completely garbage. Also, the fact that there's no Greeks is hypocritical of Hollywood, that they care so much about representation, yet there's no Greeks in a movie about Greeks. Also, the fact that you don't even care about that the movie literally having the worst cast ever and casting Matt Damon as Odysseus was completely ridiculous. But Ben Shapiro does not care. He says so much about, "I want to defend the West," but forgets that Greece is literally part of the West. The very foundations of the West. Literally look at Greek philosophy.
Penelope, the reason the war is being launched is that Helen is a pretext. Helen is an excuse. Actually, Troy just exists on the trade routes, and Agamemnon and Menelaus want to seize control of the trade routes. The Greeks want control of that trade route, and they're going to use the abduction or flight of Helen as the excuse for the battle. So it's not really about Lupita Nyong'o being extraordinarily beautiful as much as it is an excuse for why they did this thing in the first place. And by the way, I think that's also why Nolan is trying to underscore that by having Helen and Clytemnestra actually be twins. The goal there is to say her beauty is not unique, it was a pretext. So he actually solves the problem that people were complaining about. Again, I'm not sure it was a huge problem to begin with, but okay. So Travis Scott didn't bother me, Lupita Nyong'o didn't bother me. How about Zendaya? Okay, third casting thing that people were upset about was Zendaya as Athena. This is actually in the script. And Nolan does something super clever here. I actually really love what he does with Zendaya as Athena here. Why? Why does Matt Damon, again, the idea is that the gods appear to Matt Damon as he sees them. And not that objectively speaking, Athena looks like Zendaya. Why does that happen? Okay, so there's a flashback near the end of the film where he is flashing back to the sack of Troy, and they're slaughtering everyone. Right? He says it's 10 years of rage and anger being taken out on the population, and it's a slaughter. I mean, they're killing men, they're killing women, they're killing children, all of it. He watches as soldiers, as Greek soldiers, take Zendaya, who's a young woman living in Troy, and behead her in front of him. At the same exact time, he is watching a statue of Athena be beheaded. Right, again, Zeus's law has been violated, and so now, forever in his mind, this young woman who's been beheaded and Athena are tied, and they're the same. The idea is that any god can be a human being, right? That's part of Zeus's law. And so it's actually a super clever device. Casting.
So yeah, he's defending the dumbest script I have ever heard. So basically, Nolan tries to downplay Helen of Troy's beauty. So now it's just completely changing the source material. This is just the most ridiculous creative liberties I have ever seen. And casting Zendaya as Athena makes zero sense and just sounds like Hollywood slop. No, you can't defend this, Ben. This is indefensible.
And she's supposed to look Greek, or the idea is that he sees the humanity in the goddess Athena, right? That's the idea there. So it's actually cleverly woven into the script. I think Zendaya does a fine job. She doesn't bother me at all. So again, those three problems don't have a problem. Then there are the two that are a problem. Here are the actual stones in the shoe. One of them is the use of language like dad or daddy and mom. It takes you out of it. Just a reality. It takes you out of it. And there's no reason for it. You could have just said father and mother and it would have not taken you out of it. Anything that takes me out of the film is a thing that should not have happened in the film, is my basic rule here. So if it takes you way out of the film, again, it doesn't take me out of the film that there's a multiracial cast. If you want to make the case everybody needs to be Greek to be authentic, I think you can make that case. If you want to make the case everybody has to be white, I think that is a lesser case because white people and Greek are not quite the same thing. And if you want to make the case that males should play males and females should play females, I'm very much into that. That makes sense to me. Well, folks, in the Odyssey, Odysseus spends a lot of time treading water. But here's the thing. If your credit card balance is going down by $20 a month, you are also just treading water. You're not making progress. I know a lot of people listening to this show are responsible people. You pay your bills, you make your payments every month. But if you're carrying credit card debt, personal loans, or medical bills, interest is quietly working against you every single day. That's why I want you to know about PDS Debt. It can reduce up to half of what you owe on credit cards, personal loans, and medical bills. It starts with a free 30-second assessment at pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. Debt isn't just financial, it's mental. It's something people think about every time they open an app, check their bank account, or get the mail. PDS Debt has customized options for people struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills. They use AI and data to go beyond the numbers and personalize saving solutions for your situation. They may even be able to reduce up to half of what you owe and combine multiple payments into one lower monthly payment. There's zero credit impact to see your options, no minimum credit score required. Your savings can begin the same day you complete their free 30-second assessment. PDS Debt is also the top-rated company in the industry with thousands of 5-star reviews and A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Get your free 30-second personalized assessment today at pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. And that brings us to Elliot Page. This is an absolute puzzler of a decision by Christopher Nolan. And it's a decision that actually has impact on the film. Okay, so Elliot Page does not, in fact, play Achilles. I know there were lots of rumors that Elliot Page plays Achilles. Nope, that's stupid. Elliot Page is not playing Achilles. Elliot Page, who is a woman with mental issues, who believes that she is a man and has had surgeries to make her appear more man-like, but still she is about 5'2" and 105 pounds soaking wet and has the voice of a woman. It doesn't work. Okay, so Elliot Page plays a character named Sinan. The character arc.
Yeah, the dialogue is completely destroys the immersion of the film, and also Ellie Page playing as a character that's supposed to be male makes no sense, and yeah, you can't defend this. Yeah, this is the blatant flaw, and I don't know why you're defending this movie.
11 years old. And Robert Pattinson's character is selected to be drafted to go to the Trojan War and essentially threatens this young boy to go to the Trojan War instead, or he's going to kill the family. And so Sinan ends up going to the war in place of Robert Pattinson. It's kind of a crucial plot point. Okay, Sinan, this young pudgy boy, then turns out to be a 39-year-old woman dressed as a man, which, again, that's weird. It's especially weird because the person they got to cast as kind of young Robert Pattinson looks like Robert Pattinson. The person they cast as young Elliot Page looks like a pudgy boy. So it doesn't work. Sinan is supposed to be the soldier who's stationed outside the Trojan horse to tell the Trojans that this is actually a giant gift. In the film, Sinan is told by Odysseus that you're going to explain this to the Trojans. And instead of Sinan explaining to the Trojans what's going on with the horse, the Trojans just kill Sinan right away. That's the one scene with Elliot Page. And then there's a second crucial scene. This scene is drawn originally in the Odyssey from, I believe, book 11 of the Odyssey, which is the part where Odysseus visits Hades, right? Visits hell, and has a conversation with Achilles. Now, again, in the Aeneid, Sinan is a character who actually appears in Hades. So this part, the Elliot Page part, is not supposed to be Achilles. In the movie, he takes his crew, Odysseus, to Hades. And in Hades, he has a conversation with Sinan, in which Sinan explains that Odysseus must have lied to him about not dying, about living through that particular affair. And also Sinan warns him that he is going to, that his crew members are likely going to die, and talks about heroism in battle.
So yeah, Ben Shapiro doesn't care about the bad casting, but he definitely cares about the fact that they added in transgenderism into the Odyssey. Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to defend the indefensible, and you admit that this is a brutal, very big flaw in this movie. Yeah, I told you so.
11 years old. And Robert Pattinson's character is selected to be drafted to go to the Trojan War and essentially threatens this young boy to go to the Trojan War instead, or he's going to kill the family. And so Sinan ends up going to the war in place of Robert Pattinson. It's kind of a crucial plot point. Okay, Sinan, this young pudgy boy, then turns out to be a 39-year-old woman dressed as a man, which, again, that's weird. It's especially weird because the person they got to cast as kind of young Robert Pattinson looks like Robert Pattinson. The person they cast as young Elliot Page looks like a pudgy boy. So it doesn't work. Sinan is supposed to be the soldier who's stationed outside the Trojan horse to tell the Trojans that this is actually a giant gift. In the film, Sinan is told by Odysseus that you're going to explain this to the Trojans. And instead of Sinan explaining to the Trojans what's going on with the horse, the Trojans just kill Sinan right away. That's the one scene with Elliot Page. And then there's a second crucial scene. This scene is drawn originally in the Odyssey from, I believe, book 11 of the Odyssey, which is the part where Odysseus visits Hades, right? Visits hell, and has a conversation with Achilles. Now, again, in the Aeneid, Sinan is a character who actually appears in Hades. So this part, the Elliot Page part, is not supposed to be Achilles. in the movie, he takes his crew, Odysseus, to Hades. And in Hades, he has a conversation with Sinon, in which Sinon explains that Odysseus must have lied to him about not dying, about living through that particular affair. And also Sinon warns him that he is going to, that his crew members are likely going to die, and talks about heroism in battle.
Just admit that this movie is trash, because it is trash. And there's no way defending this. Very ironic, isn't it?
Because it is stupid to cast Elliot Page as a dude. It's just stupid. But people on the right were saying, oh, the movie's going to bomb because of that. No, the movie's not going to bomb because of that. It turns out that when people want to be entertained, they're willing to entertain even bad flaws in the tooth if it turns out that the smile is nice. It turns out that the people are willing to undergo some bad politics and some bad decision-making if the film is great. But if conservatives want to be effective in the culture, you can't just label the entire piece of art bad because a decision in the art is bad. This movie's going to make a fortune. It should make a fortune. It's creative. It's interesting. It's visually incredible. I think the broader theme of the movie is actually very much in line with many things that conservatives think. And if you let Elliot Page kill that for you, I think you're missing out on an incredible movie-going experience. And you can do all of that while still being annoyed.
Yeah, no, this movie is completely terrible and is not... Stop pretending this is a masterpiece. No, this is completely terrible. And you should not be defending this.